working together as a cohesive environment, leading with our heads and our hearts, and creating solutions with that model. That's what I want to go into the future with. I don't want to do what the past had.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Between Fires and Futures. I'm your host, Tonya Turrell, and today's episode is a personal one. We're talking about how leadership in tech is changing and honestly how it needs to change and why women are driving that transformation. And the women you'll hear from today are right at the center of and actually driving that shift. Right now, with all of the AI disruption, cultural change, pressure to move faster and faster, it's clear the old leadership models just aren't working anymore. And just to be clear, this isn't about excluding anyone, especially not men. It's really about evolving leadership, expanding the table, making space for something more human, more integrated, and honestly more effective. Because emotional intelligence, adaptability, people first thinking, these aren't nice to haves anymore. They're what actually move teams and shape culture and guide the big decisions, especially when things get hard. So today you're going to hear from 3 women in tech who are living proof of that. I'm joined by Lara Mayes, April Armijo, and Leslie Bonsett, 3 incredible leaders from Global Consulting Group. They've each got their own lane, strategy, partnerships, operations, telecom, but what they share is a totally different way of leading in tech. One that's grounded, intuitive, and incredibly effective. Together, they've guided countless IT leaders through transformation, optimization, and growth. And I've so been looking forward to getting into this conversation because it's such an important one to have right now. So welcome. Let's dive in.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been more excited for a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, we were really excited too. Thank you.
So let's start with some context. When you first entered tech, what did leadership in this space look like to you? And how did that shape the way you saw yourself in this field?
Yeah, so if it's okay with the other ladies, I can start and answer your question. When I started, and I'm probably the oldest person here, it was the 1990s, and I started in IT. I had a technical mindset, and I had an advanced degree from graduate school, and I just was really impacted by the remarkable women that I saw in the industry at that time, because it was very definitely mostly men. And yeah, there were not very many women sitting in leadership positions at that table. And the ones that were just outstanding personalities, people that you remember your entire career. Mm-hmm. They were smart, intuitive. They would just knock down walls. And I started and really learned from them, and tried to have a mindset that was an outcome mindset for my customers, and really focus on what the client's needs are. But to continue those stable highs, that bar that those folks, those women ahead of me had set. And I really like to think that we've made great strides since then, and we've set a new bar, bringing strategic thinking to the table at IT.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Absolutely, Leslie. And if you don't mind, Tonya, I'll cut in here and just add my 2 cents. But, I've been in IT now for about 15 years. And I was actually really fortunate, because when I did get into IT, I had some leadership to look up to, like Leslie Bonsett. I also had other leadership like Heidi Humphreys, who was at GCG for a long time. So I was able to learn from them. But what I did learn over the years and how it's changed is you really need to pay attention and speak up, and not just be silent at the table, right? Like, you have to have, if you have an opinion, you have to say what it is. because there's too many other people that are just going to, speak right over you. And so I feel like I learned a lot just through those years of, kind of paying attention to what Leslie was doing, what Heidi was doing. I even knew April back then. April has been a great mentor for me. And watching people in leadership like that in IT has really changed who I am today.
That's awesome. And my story's similar to Leslie Bonsett's. I started my career, I grew up in telecom in 99. And when I was there, I was in my early 20s, right, when I first started out. And, I saw a lot of the button-up suits, the good old boys club, right? And for me being so young, that was really intimidating. You hear a lot of acronyms and, just numbers. It's all about the numbers. And there was no care about feelings or people. So, I saw that to make me feel like I wanted to change that. And so every group and any team, I walked into a room or walked into that group, I started, from my heart, right? So I wanted to blend feelings with the execution of things. So it's, about building the relationships, not just hitting numbers for me. And that's how, I feel like that shift has changed with women as well.
Yeah. Hearing all of this, it just brings up so much because I got into this space in the late 90s. And I didn't see very many women in the space at all. Or if they were, it was definitely, on the people side, the marketing side. And I do think I internalized a message early, which was like, be efficient, don't make waves, deliver, don't ask for too much, overperform. And so, that's what I did.
Yeah.
And I think I kept my intuition on mute for a number of years because I felt like that kind of leadership just wasn't being modeled around me. Like I didn't have the examples. And in the end, I founded my own company to be able to be who I was in leadership so that I could just be what I intuitively knew needed to happen for to lead my team, to lead the company where it needed to go. But I didn't have a lot of examples around me. And it is thrilling to know that like we are the examples for the next generation and that they get to build upon that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. One of the things that I remember from the women that were good role models for me were that they just didn't take no for an answer.
Yeah.
And they would think out of the box creatively to get to the client's outcome that they needed. And they would make amazing things happen. And we've tried to do that too. One of the things that I worry about is that I love being a role model for our younger girls, but I have a teenage daughter and she sees that don't take no for an answer to heart.
Same.
Yeah. So there's a little learning that needs to happen with it. Like you said, that you keep it on mute for a little while until you've assessed the environment and you can take it out there and really use it. And I try to use that as well.
Yeah. So I'd love to talk a little bit about, we always hear women lead differently, but what does that really mean? And I think, some of it has come up, but what do you think the unique strengths are that women bring to tech leadership?
I kind of think Lara touched on a little bit of it in April to bring personality, to bring an understanding of needs and an intuitive capability of, and I told the ladies earlier that my words aren't with me today, almost an intimacy, if you will, of bringing the right leadership at the right time for the people that you are working with, and not trying to have a cookie cutter leadership mentality where everyone has to fit into your box.
Yeah.
As I kind of mentioned, that assessing the situation, ascertaining the environment, and then molding your leadership to the people that you're working with. I think women really excel at that. And I do think that is what's going to be necessary in the coming days, because there are so many different types of people in the world, and there always have been. But in the past, we've asked people to shut themselves off and just come into work like machines, if you will.
Yeah.
And we don't do that anymore. We want them to bring their personalities to work, within reason. But we want them to bring their personalities to work. That's what gives us creative thinking and new solutions to problems.
Yeah.
And I believe that our team excels at finding solutions themselves, and they do not need someone telling them what to do, telling them exactly how to do it. So I really believe in that. And I think the ladies do as well. Sorry, I'm taking all the time.
That's okay. What you said was perfect.
Yes, it's perfect. I couldn't say it any better than that.
I mean, we just, I think, and Leslie and April, I actually give this to you both, just watching you both in leadership positions and how you handle certain situations compared to how I've seen, males handle certain situations. I think that there's more of a emotional understanding in there too, which, everybody always says, oh, leave your emotions out of work. Well, you can't. You're doing this for 40 plus hours a week. It's a big part of your life. And
Agreed.
I think that there's like a essential understanding. And I also feel like you both listen to me, like as, an employee. I think you both listen to me and really understand where I'm coming from, and that I try to also be that way with our team members. And I think that there's such a difference between how a female leads an organization versus, a male leading organization. And I think that is the way that it's evolving with everyone now. And I just see it being such a positive thing going forward. So,
yeah, I think it comes across with our suppliers as well. I see the way that Lara and April work with our suppliers, and how they come up with just the best ideas for new things to do. And obviously it works with our clients too. We're always trying to manage things that way with our clients.
Yeah, because we don't just lead differently, we think differently, right? And being able to hold complexity and read those undercurrents and navigate the invisible dynamics, whether you call that intuition or instinct or whatever you want to call it. It's, that's what actually moves people. And I think that's what creates trust. So I think that's, when I think about what does it mean to lead differently? The root is that the thinking is different, and therefore we lead different. And I also think, we lead human first. We cannot take the empathy out of the equation. It's just not even possible. And I don't think that is a disadvantage. I think it's a superpower.
I agree. I like that. Yeah, I think it is too.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And I feel like the world is really shifting towards that. It is starting to be recognized for the strength that it actually is.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that more and more, definitely now more than, coming up in the 90s in this space.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So different.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I like the way you put it, to lead human first.
Yes.
Because showing the humanity to the folks that you're leading makes them want to work harder for you. Yeah. And it just makes them their best. And if they're their best, then, you're going to get great work.
Yeah.
So I
absolutely.
think that is a really good way to think of it.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we're all just wired for connection, and we want to be seen. And I think that is something that as women, we just, it comes naturally.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So let's talk about the shift that we're all feeling and seeing, that, women in tech have been underrepresented for a very long time, and we're still underrepresented in tech. But something is changing. We're not just earning seats at the table. How do you think women are reshaping the table itself?
Honestly, you're right, Tonya. There is a shift happening, and I see it from a marketing perspective. I see it a lot because I'm out on social media and I'm seeing more and more women pop up in leadership roles that, maybe they didn't have before, and they've moved to this new company and now they're in a leadership role. And I do see a shift happening, and it's been happening over the past few years, but I really have taken notice probably in the past, I don't know, 12 to 24 months. And I think it's going to, and I don't know, if it has started this yet, but I really feel like it is going to shape the table a little differently, because that, again, the thought process that we have is different, right? We have that emotional, the EQ, and the IQ, right? So we can bring all of that to the table. And I'm not saying no men ever get that, right? But we do, it's very strong with us. So I feel like bringing that to the table, it's going to bring a completely different dynamic to a lot of different companies. And I'm seeing it. I'm already seeing it with large companies like, April and I were just talking about this the other day, but there's a whole series of commercials now with, that came out, and I saw it on Hulu and I thought, oh, wow, this is awesome. But it was recognizing women that are in leadership positions, and it was very interesting to see. And some of the companies were huge companies, and it was talking about, the influence that they have, that they bring to the table. And I see it in telecom now. I see a lot of leadership, even in bigger companies like Verizon and AT&T and some of these larger carriers that you see. There's a lot of female leadership there, and I'm all about it. I think it's great. And I think that they not only bring something different to the table, but I think they don't have like the blinders on. I think they're seeing a bigger picture. And I'm really excited to see where it's going to lead.
Yeah, it is definitely an exciting time.
Yeah, I think so too. And I agree, Lara, with you mentioned the emotional intelligence factor. I think part of what plays into that is that bringing the emotional intelligence to see the big picture strategy, but also all of the smaller details that go into a solution. I think that it really helps to have women leading that story, because we really do. We lead it with empathy. We see all of those pieces, and it changes the way that solutions are built, I think. And then it's changing the solutions that are provided. I think what it does to our IT service industry is that instead of this shift to self-service that they're seeing, when you see the women get involved, you're going to see more an empathetic, hand-holding
connection
a connection. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Human-like.
Human first.
Yeah. So I agree with all of that. And I'm, going to add to that, as women, a lot of us are mothers, and so we're constantly multitasking, and that's how our brains just kind of naturally work, right? So, that's where I see that's shifting and changing the seat at the table is where we're constantly 5-10 steps ahead. I know I plan out my whole week on Monday and like every hour of that day. So when we're bringing those challenges and trying to, solve problems, we look at everything outside, 10 steps ahead, 10 days ahead. And for me, that just kind of helps with that. But not only that, just bringing in, the emotional side of it, adding that to the table, right? And it's, just all the well-being all around, instead of, just right into the numbers, here's what we're doing. This is what you do. It's a different feeling. And, I've personally done that, in my past, changing, how we did a yearly review to not just about work, but hey, let's set a goal for you personally too. And I'm really interested in that. And I want to see you grow. There's one particular person on my team, that is an actor. And the minute I was super engaged with him, on those things, his productivity was like through the roof, and, his morale was so amazing. And I was like, wow, that's all I need to do is just connect with you as a person. Right. And it's just such a big change.
I love that.
I do too. Yeah. I really love that, because it's not just about how we deliver results, because we deliver results too, right? But it's about how people experience us while we do it. And that's the shift. And I think that's more important now in this age of AI than ever before, like bringing that human component, because the world is racing towards AI. And now's the opportunity to really deepen what makes us most human.
Yeah.
And, I've heard them called the soft skills, which just drives me crazy, because they were the power skills. And I think even more powerful and more important in this AI age.
I think so too. Yeah,
I really
definitely.
I agree. I was just thinking about this, Leslie. You were talking about how April and I work with our providers, and one of the messages that I've been bringing, and April had said this, and it kind of struck me. I've been bringing it to the table, is that, the way that we deal with our clients is different now. And it's something that I see so clearly. And I'm kind of trying to talk our providers into, kind of changing how they interact with the clients as well. Instead of steak dinners or, a drink at the bar or whatever, it's not the good old boys club anymore. It's our clients are changing, and we need to change with it. And I'm constantly saying this to our providers, and it's something I think I see so clearly. April sees it, Leslie sees it, and some people do, but it's hard to convince some of these older generations that have been in this business for so long to shift how they think about things and kind of look at, how we need to start, consulting with our clients to bring more value to the table.
And get to know them as people. We're seeing some of that now. It's really a wonderful thing to see, with suppliers and customers getting together and going skiing here in Colorado, or snowboarding, or bicycling. It's becoming a different world out there.
Yeah, that's right. It is. And it's really clear that the old ways don't work anymore. So we've got to make way for a new, a more integrated way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
This is so good. So I just like to keep going, like a layer deeper. What do you believe women will bring to IT leadership that's been missing and undervalued beyond what we've talked about? Like, let's go in a little bit deeper. Where have you seen those qualities make a real difference, either with your clients or at GCG, anywhere?
I can take this one. I mean, I know it's nothing new that we haven't just talked about, but for me, it's super important because of my role here at GCG, where I manage the team, and often with that, it's I'm also the team psychologist. I'm here now, but the emotional intelligent aspect, like I think, just not just the emotional side, but just being a radar to see when you think maybe the team morale is down, right? Like I can spot that in a moment. I can hear it in a team member's voice, right? I'm like, oh no, I need to call and make sure something's okay, just by being in a meeting with them and just knowing like, hey, I need to check in on that person, right? So those little small moments of distress or self-doubt, I think as women, we can jump in really quickly, just kind of, wrap our arms around them. I pride myself on kind of knowing people very well. Like I know my audience, I know how to care for somebody, or, what's going to be something that they would need in that moment, right? Do you just need to walk away? Do you need a hug? Do you need to chat? What is that? Where, that emotional intelligence comes into play. So just feeling like turning the feelings into motivation, instead of, making a person feel like a number, right? I think that's the difference. And walking away from that mentality, the old mentality.
Yeah. And are you seeing a shift? Because the old mentality is just so harmful. It's so clear it's so harmful. Are you seeing the shift that these qualities are being more valued?
Oh, 100%. Yes. I've seen that time and time again. And I think there's more adoption, with some of these, qualities and, how companies, just act and behave, and paying attention to it, being self-aware.
Yeah. I'll tell you something that I was really encouraged by. A few episodes ago, we had a IT leader in our community want to be a guest on the podcast. He's a CIO for a healthcare system. When we got on the call to sort of flesh out what is the episode going to be about, what do you want to talk about, where's your area of expertise, I was really, really encouraged. His name was Jason Frame. Really encouraged that he wanted to talk about the human-centered approach to leadership and how important it is in tech right now. And he is speaking all over the country talking about that. So that was really encouraging.
Yeah,
love it.
That's amazing. And I think to add on to what April was saying too, I think there's some sincerity that you get from a female in leadership that it just is so authentic. I don't think you can really fake it. And maybe it is, April, because we have that nurturing sort of quality.
Yeah.
But I think people have noticed it in me and my leadership. I notice it in both of you. There's a sincerity in talking with you. When I come to you and say, hey, this is a concern, or, I think we should do this, I know you're really listening and soaking it all in and making a decision based on that, and not just, okay, let's move on or whatever.
It's the way it's always been, so too bad.
Yeah. So there is I think a sincerity and a deeper understanding that comes from women in leadership. And again, not to say that men don't have that, but in my experience, I've seen it a lot more with women in leadership. So
and we talked about in a prior meeting that we as women lead with our head and our heart. And I think that is the connection. That is getting to the human need that we talked about. And it, it may create a situation where someone's off at a time when they had something else scheduled and we have to reschedule it, but we can reschedule that and work around it. And the quality of work we get out of those people, because they're happy and, and everyone is working with them as a cohesive team and cares about each other. It's just head and shoulders above anything that it's ever been before. So it doesn't really matter why we hold ourselves to these arbitrary timelines. I don't understand. But, understanding that sometimes timelines are very valid, but, the working together as a cohesive environment, leading with our heads and our hearts, and creating solutions with that model. That's what I want to go into the future with. I don't want to do what the past had.
Yeah, this is all just so good. This is exactly how I knew the conversation would go. I'd love to hear about the resistance that you've faced in the past or being underestimated. What's a challenge that you've overcome that really has shaped your leadership? A challenge because you were a female.
Yeah. And I don't know, April, if you
a couple of hours.
Yeah. April has a really good example. We had talked about some things recently when she and I were at lunch together, that something about the project that you were coordinating, that you might want to.
Yeah. This was at the start too. When I was a senior project manager, and again, very young. I'm still learning a lot. But there's things I wanted to know and learn. I had a good friend that was in the engineering side of it, and he'd been working alongside me I was the project manager and he was the engineer. And so the next project, I was like, I want to do this, right? I think I can do this. So I asked to lead that, right? And literally one of the male, I just call it the male because I think it's important. One of the men that were a senior executive literally just said, "But you're not a network engineer." Didn't try to find out, the work I had done, quality of my work, who I was, or anything about it. Just, straight to the, jump, just didn't think I was qualified. But I had been self-studying, working with my, engineer on the projects. I mean, it was top notch. I thought I was ready, and I was. So, and I did. I was able to lead it. I did an awesome job. From there on out, I was actually a leader in that group that then migrated to a whole new team, which I was able to lead. It was kind of like, hey, let's test this out and see if it works. And, from then on, I earned promotions after promotions. And a lot of that I do owe to one of the directors over there who was amazing. And she was my cheerleader, and she mentored me every step of the way, even to this day. She's on LinkedIn, and she's always cheering me on, talking about, "Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you, where you've come." And, it's just so good to, to know that. But from that experience and what I've learned, 20 something years later, that, I own my lane. I'm going to kick ass at it. And that's what I encourage everybody, all the women in my life, my daughters, my nieces, my team. You guys quietly prepare and then just go kick butt, right?
It's true.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's such
Definitely.
a great story.
Yeah. I have similar stories, I'm sure, that all of us do. But one of the things that kind of became my specialty in the industry is they would assign me to some of the hardest accounts that they had. And I would come in and be very unintimidating, and really listen to what the customer needed. And then meet those needs and surpass them, by leaps and bounds. And one of my clients had said to me at one point that he would always request me because it's like having a concierge, at your fingertips. He knew that I was going to surpass his expectations. So he always wanted to have me involved. And that's what I had an engineering background, but, when I was in my 20s, they loved to assign the 6-foot blonde, to accounts. And you
It's true.
don't seem, you seem like you're going to be kind of a pretty picture on the wall or something. And then they were quite surprised when I would bring my engineering mindset to the table. And then the female aspect of, leading with my head and heart, overcoming their, any obstacles and surpassing their expectations. So I probably have, tens of stories that I could tell.
I always say Leslie's not just a pretty face. She's here first.
Right. Absolutely.
Second. And I've stopped people in their tracks on calls before. They've been like, "So are you going to bring an engineer to the table?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's Leslie Bonsett."
She's prepared. Thanks.
She knows.
Got a chair.
So, yeah. So, and I have to, again, give it to April and Leslie. I've been in positions in the past, Tonya, where I wasn't encouraged to, share my ideas as much. I bring my ideas to the table, and it was like, okay, we might do that later on. Thanks a lot. Or, kind of put off. And I gotta say, and I know I've told this to both of you, but, since joining GCG again, this past spring, it has been amazing. I bring my ideas to the table. I'm heard. They are like, "Yes, let's do it." And I just feel like we've moved leaps and bounds forward. And it's been such an amazing experience. And I haven't gotten that in positions in the past. And one of the biggest changes I can think of is that it's the leadership. It's the female leadership. They're listening to me. They understand that, I've seen some stuff. I've spent a lot of time listening and being at the table and trying to have a voice, and they're giving me a voice. And I think it's inspirational. It's very moving. In fact, I try not to get emotional right now.
You're amazing.
It's such a great thing.
Good to hear too, because it's to the benefit of the company and their clients as well, right?
And absolutely, Tonya. And some of Lara's ideas are going to change the channel and the way that things are done in the channel. So it's really amazing to, hear things that she comes up with and then see the changes that they're making out there. Yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. I can't wait to hear. I think those that are not, that are underestimating women or not paying attention to women's ideas are really missing out. I have a mentor, Sunira Madani. She's a unicorn exited founder of Stacks, a payment processing platform. And then she's now creating another fintech and building again. But she started off in her career young in finance, pitched her idea for Stacks to her male bosses, and they laughed her out of the room. She went and built it and scaled it to over $1 billion. So that one always just gets me in the gut. And she's phenomenal. And then, I feel like personally being in the tech space, even from when I was, I was in my 20s when I started, when we would go into a room and talk to clients, marketers might have been female, but most of the engineers were male. And it was so blatant in the early days where, questions were not directed at me, even though I was the founder of the company. At 29, 30, the questions were not directed at me. No one made eye contact with me. They'd look at a male employee and direct the questions. So that doesn't happen anymore, which shows me that things have come quite a long way. But that stuff burned me just hot enough to fuel me. And I'm sure you all have similar.
I used to have to include my male boss on emails to get answers back from people because I would just email, no answer. The minute I included my male boss, got an answer. I was like, what's happening in the world?
Infuriating.
It is.
I was talking to a coworker who is 10 years older than me, and she was telling me that when she started in the industry, she was not allowed to wear pants. She had to wear skirts to work, and she worked for one of the big suppliers back then. So that would have been in the late 80s, maybe, that she started. And she has some really cute stories about the time because she is another woman who is a leader in the industry, and she has not let things like that set her back. So, I think that we've come a long way since then.
Yes,
absolutely.
Which in the scheme of things is not that long of a time.
Right.
That was not that long ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree.
Which is just, it's crazy. I've always said this. I feel like I am an in-between generation where, I was not really the first to do all the things. But the road had not really been paved that well for our generation. I am so excited to see the next generation of women and what they're able to do because of women like you.
Definitely. I don't think they're going to hold back at all.
No. Especially for our daughters.
Yeah, I think that April and I, since we parent some of them, know that, fortunately, some of them don't care that there were ever any barriers because they're not there now, and they're not going to stand for it.
Yeah. That just gave me full body chills.
I just got chills too. It gives me chills almost every day.
Yeah.
So we're in this era of AI transformation, right? It really feels like it's hitting a tipping point now. How do you see women shaping the ethics and direction and really just like the human side of the shift?
You said earlier that it's really important that we have the human side now that we're in this era of AI, because I think AI is going to blow our minds. It is going to blow up, and we're going to move faster in this industry than we've ever moved before, because it's amazing what AI can do. It can give people capabilities that they've never had in their whole lives, that they've got the ability to consume knowledge and then utilize it, right? So using that, you have to have that human element to continue to gauge how you use those powerful tools. And so having women in that is going to be really important, in my opinion, to make sure that we move those things forward and we still keep that human element and that empathy and the leading with your head and your heart, and not just making mechanical decisions on things. I've been so obsessed with AI that I was recently looking for a robot to employ in my home. And I found 2 robots that are actually out there being developed right now. One is
I was just going to ask, are we there yet?
Yeah. Well, so you can be invited to purchase one by Amazon, but it's not on general availability yet. And it's pretty expensive, in the thousands of dollars. And then our friend, who is the father of Starlink and Tesla, is developing one, of course. And I think I saw that it's supposed to be released in the next 12 to 18 months. And it's like the price of a car. But it looks like the robots from iRobot, the big, they're 6 feet tall. They have arms and legs. Amazon's looks like a little dog that follows you around kind of right now. It's amazing. And my point is that it's upon us, the AI and the robots, and we have to keep the human element, or, these movies that we've watched in the past will be in our nightmares. So, we definitely have to keep that.
I think April and I were just talking about this. Do you want to take this one, April? Because I think you have some really good insight on just operationally kind of thinking about it that way.
Go a different direction, right? Of obviously AI is top of mind for many companies and for sure for us as well. And, just trying to figure out, how to get that implemented internally, right? I have this whole list now that I'm like, well, what about the compliances? How do we do this? I mean, there's a whole list that, I've been doing research and just trying to make sure that from the beginning, it's straight, it's fair. We're not breaking any rules or laws. Is this going to be fair to the employees? How do we get started, right? And, just making sure that it makes sense and, what we're doing, right? But, there's just so many factors that go into that. And, again, speaking to the emotional intelligence and, the human side, right? Like, how far do we go with this? If I'm publishing, if I'm creating an AI bot for HR, you have to make sure that everything is up to date and compliant and, everything is fair, right? I mean, it gets really down deep, right? If you find, but I think women are making sure that, we're keeping standards and keeping AI smart and accountable. And doing it in the right way, like we're drafting the playbook, as I would say it, that's how we're gonna, ensure AI is done right. We are to be the rule makers about it.
Exactly what you said. The planning that you do at the beginning of your week, because it's kind of just in you, right? It's like part of your make as a female, because you have this motherly instinct. I think that is also being brought to the table with AI and how we're looking at it and making sure that we are compliant and all of that. So I think that that was exactly what I was getting at. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that beyond like participating in this, it really is the female leadership is needed to recalibrate the direction we're headed.
Yeah. Balance it out a little bit.
Yeah.
It's exciting, but let's bring it down to reality.
Exciting and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah. Sure.
But it's too late. We're on the path. There's no turning back now.
It's true.
It's
and this is something that I just feel so strongly about, and I care about it a lot because we really are at that tipping point. And that I think humans don't want to be managed like machines, right? They want to be seen, they want to be heard, trusted, supported, inspired. That's what we bring to the table. And I think women are really have the opportunity to really anchor this moment because we're bringing the questions that machines can't ask. We're building in the nuance and the soul, the ethics, the context. And I think that might be the most essential leadership work of our time right now.
I agree. And I was just thinking, Tonya, you and Leslie, I'm going to have to listen back to this whole thing because there's been so many things that you said. I love anchor the moment. Like there's so many things in here that are just like inspirational words. And I agree with you 100%.
Yes.
Yeah.
A really good friend of mine is a coach, an executive coach. And she, I want to say probably 12 or 18 months ago, really started speaking about the importance of human connection in this age of AI and how important presence is in leadership. Her name is Leslie Keeler. I'll share her LinkedIn with you. She's actually going to come on the podcast as a guest as soon as we can figure out some time. She's based in Barcelona. But she has been invited to speak. Like she was just speaking on the stage at South by Southwest in London.
Wow.
And so she's being invited to speak all over the world now on this topic, which to me is really encouraging that, she's on tech stages talking about human connection.
Yeah. I think it's so important.
Yeah. It's important that we don't lose sight of it, because it is so exciting, to have AI and machine learning involved in our environments, but we need to keep those gates, and those flags that we can continue to check on it and make sure that we're not losing the oversight on how things are progressing and how
younger generations are interacting with people. That just made me think of recently I stumbled across a job posting for Target. They were hiring people to come in and train their younger employees on how to interact with people that are coming into the store, because there's kind of beginning to be sort of a block there. And I don't think that they know how to talk to other people and just start a conversation. So they're having people come in and train them on how to start a conversation. I was like, I'll help. I love that. But I just, it was shocking to me. I was thinking to myself, wow, that's a big thing. And I didn't know that it was, something that existed, but it is. And with AI
this is the first time hearing about it.
Even more,
Yeah.
So crazy.
Wow. So what advice do you have for emerging female tech leaders who are trying to lead with heart and their head?
Gosh, that's a good question. I would say, God, I'm kind of at war with myself over my answer.
Give them both.
So what I started to say was, remember that you can do it. You can lead. You can have your voice heard, and you should. They should listen. But the piece that I was at war with is you should be listening too. So you need to make sure that you're listening while you're doing that. And I know that some of us We get kind of wrapped up in what we need to get out there and the information that we need to impart. But we need to listen to what's being said and the need as well. But we as women should be in the IT industry because we do lead with our heads and our hearts, and our voices should be heard in this industry. And there's not very many of us here anymore. So each and every single one of them is very important to this industry right now. Yeah.
I agree. Yes. I would say surround yourself with people that inspire you.
Great.
If you lean on other women around you, or even if it's, I have a couple of mentors that are male and they're fantastic. If somebody inspires you, if you feel like you get solid advice from someone, like Leslie said, listen, but always make sure you're surrounding yourself with someone that, makes you feel good about yourself too. And have a voice. I know I said that earlier, but speak up. Don't be afraid to sound, stupid. I can't tell you how many times I think I've probably sounded like ridiculous, but I think it's important if you feel like you have something to share and that it's going to, help a company grow or whatever your position is in that company. I feel like it's really important to have a voice.
I think that's great, Lara, too, because that was something I was thinking about. And I've said this to the team, and I'll do it. Actually, if I think that there's a question that comes up, just asking questions, don't be afraid. If you have that question, likely somebody else does too, right? And they're the ones that are afraid to raise their hand. So, take one for the team, right? And sometimes I'll just ask questions knowing like, okay, guys, I know there's two of you on this call right now that should be asking this question and you're not. So I'm going to ask it for you, right? But anyway, like, just don't be afraid to ask bold questions. Like, I still don't, and I will never have all the answers, but some of the best opportunities that I had, through when I look back at like, wow, I did some really cool things, considering where I started, but it came from being curious. It came from asking questions and, not being afraid to maybe look silly or, ask a question, follow up and, maybe say, hey, what about if we did it this way? Just figuring out how to be bold and being curious.
I love
curiosity opens doors, right? And I think with our team and many people I've worked with, but specifically with this team, I've noticed the more curiosity in the meetings we have, the more collaboration there is, right? And I think that's so strong. And I feel like because of the great leadership, the women we have created that safe space for our team that they don't feel afraid to bring their ideas, right? Like Laura, like you've said, but I think that's across the board here. Our team is always feels open to bring ideas. And I think it's so wonderful because there's been times that I've seen that, like, no one speak up. And they don't.
I love that you brought up the word
changes.
curious, because I think curiosity I think it's one of the most underrated leadership skills. And it is, as I'm raising up leaders in my company, that is the one thing that we talk about a lot is just it's only going to be a benefit to come at pretty much everything with curiosity. When you come at things with certainty, you miss the opportunity to ask questions. You miss the opportunity to learn. You miss the opportunity to hear the other story or the other side. So I love that you brought up curiosity, because we haven't brought it up so far, but it is, I think it's one of the most underrated skills.
Yeah. And Tonya, I think something too that it struck me when April said this. I read not too long ago that the best leaders are the ones that aren't afraid of not being the smartest person in the room, right? And I think that that's what makes women more relatable when we are in the boardroom, because we're not in there trying to be the smartest person in the room. We're curious, we're listening, we're on an emotional level with, our understanding. So I just think that kind of embraces what April was just saying too. You know, we're not afraid to walk in the room and ask a question. In fact, it's funny, April, when you said that, I was thinking of a chat conversation I had with April yesterday. We were both on a call. I asked her, I'm like, is this da-da-da? And she's like, I don't know. And I said, I'm going to ask. I'm not afraid to look dumb. I probably should have known, but I asked anyways, and we got the answer. And so I think, you know, I just think it's important. And I think it's something that females bring to the table.
Yeah. Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. And sometimes it's saying the thing anyway, even if you are afraid to look dumb, even if you are going to look dumb, saying the thing anyway, right?
Because what's it going to do? It's not going to blow up the world, right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And sometimes the biggest and best and most innovative ideas come out of that.
Yeah.
And, you know, the model of Technology Match, our business, that came out of me willing to look dumb because there was a way that this work was done and had been done for 2 decades that I was in the space. And it was just like, it didn't make sense to me. And, you know, I think I finally asked one day with my leadership team, like, demand creation. This word doesn't even make sense. Why are we even doing it this way? Demand exists in the market. Like, what if we just connected people? What if we connected the two people who need each other? And it was kind of laughed at first. Like, we can't flip the entire model. That's not the way our clients fund these things. That's not the way budgets work. That's just not the way this works. But it was being willing to look dumb and toss out a crazy idea. Like, what is demand generation anyway? Is that that's just a word we toss around, but is that really what we need to be doing?
Right.
What if we matchmake? And so, you know, the whole matchmaking platform modeled after a dating site, inspired by a woman founder, inspired by Bumble, is really kind of how we came to be in this business. And that was all just, it started off with me looking really dumb in a room. But yeah, I think my advice would be like, just doing the thing anyway, you know, speaking up, even if your voice is shaking, not waiting to feel confident. Because what I've learned is confidence doesn't come before the thing.
That's right.
It comes, so it's not a prerequisite for action. It comes after you do the thing many times.
Yeah. So true. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. So before we close, what would you say to the men listening? Like, what can male allies do to support this kind of leadership and help shift the culture?
So I hope that this doesn't come across to them the last however many minutes that we've been talking as though we were bashing them at all, because that's not our intent in any way. As Lara said, she has some male mentors and they're amazing people. We've all been mentored by men and women in this industry. But I think that the best way that I've seen that they can support us is to give us a chance. If they haven't heard our idea before, you know, maybe they should just take a minute before they laugh at us. You know, if we're asking curious questions, the men that I've worked with in the industry that were the best mentors to me and taught me so much they never laughed at me, not once. And I'm sure that I asked some pretty silly questions sometime. And very early on, there were some men that helped me to learn things that I would not be where I'm at right now if it wasn't for them, and to understand the way that they look at things as well. So just having that empathy to try and look at both sides of our viewpoints. I know that we as women try to do that. I hope that they as men are trying to do that. But just give us a chance and hear us out on things. So I don't know, Lara or April, if you want to add.
You know, there definitely is a huge change and shift, and there's many times I do not feel the way I felt 20 years ago, right? one of the male mentors,
so wonderful.
Saint
I'm so
Germain,
glad
like he is one of the
That's my
most
mentor too.
amazing.
That'll be mine too.
He's really big with empowering, women, but just, supporting women. Right. And he's all three of us ladies. Right. But, if I could say, go find yourself a mentor, men. Right. Look to somebody that maybe you see, behaves differently, or, you want to model after. Right. If you're having a difficult time trying to figure out, how to work with a woman. Like, I know there's a lot of industries where there's just not a lot of women. My husband is in that industry, oil and gas, right? Where, it's definitely still the good old boys club, right? So, think about how would you want your wife to be treated, with an opportunity, or your daughter or your niece, right? Just, think of that, take a step back before you judge, and, treat that person, that woman, equal.
If you're in the position to put a woman in your leadership team, do it. And don't just do it for optics. Do it for real. Really give that person the chance to lead alongside of you, because there's so many different dynamics and different things that you can learn from each other. And I think that it's important, especially in IT, to start having that leadership and different point of view to look up to. So I would say, if you're in a position to add on to your leadership team, look for a female, and give it a chance, give it a true chance.
Yeah, I love that. I heard an analogy once that I really loved, and hopefully I don't get it wrong. But it was describing the feminine and the masculine. Whereas like the masculine, we need both, right? We absolutely need both. We're not saying we don't need the masculine in leadership. We do. And the analogy was something like this. The masculine is the riverbanks. Like we need the riverbanks. We need the structure. And the feminine is the river. It's that intuitive flow, the emotional intelligence, the ability to pause and sense that what we're building is in alignment with what actually matters. But it is that flow, and you need both. The river without the riverbanks is chaos, and the riverbanks without the river is dirt.
Yeah, me too. It's great.
Yeah, and I liken that to a battery, right? Like you can't lead with only half a circuit. A battery needs both the positive and negative to create power. And I think about that in leadership. Like we need both the masculine and the feminine. And in this age of AI, especially, I think the balancing force that has been left out for too long is that feminine.
Yeah, I agree. That was a great analogy. I really love that.
Yeah, that's something I heard from someone years ago, and it really stuck with me because it just gave me that visual that it takes both. The reason it has felt so out of balance is we haven't had both.
I was going to mention we have one of the members of our team was raised by one of the first female executives in the oil and gas industry, and you can see it modeled in the woman on our team. Yeah, kind of amazing.
She's empowered.
You can really see that strength in her. So I think that it only brings good.
What gives you hope right now about the future of women in IT? Like, what are the shifts you're seeing or making that really signal change?
Oh gosh, have you seen some of the female leaders out there? There are leaders in many of the very large IT companies that are women. They're strong women, and they're making real changes in the industry. I think I'm going to give myself chills again. I had an epiphany the other day that was, gosh, these changes that are happening in the industry and the women that are leading them. I don't know if that goes hand in hand, but it's just kind of amazing that all this stuff is coming at the same time. There's some at Lumen. Kate is one of the leaders who was also at Microsoft. I mean, there are just some amazing women starting companies out there and leading some of the big conglomerates that are out there. And I think it's making an impact.
Yeah. There's AT&T, Juice Danielson.
In the channel. Yeah, she's great.
She's like leading the channel right now and killing it. And there's a lot of really strong women out there. And I thought of the commercial series, Tonya, you'll need to check it out. It was Accenture. They're doing a commercial series, and it's about women leadership. And it's fantastic. It's like her sitting down. It's one of the leaders at Accenture who's female. She sits down with other female leadership and have like a one-on-one and kind of talk over what they've seen, as far as being a woman in their business or in leadership. And it was great. And I saw it on TV, and I just think that's so...
I'm going to check that out. I'm going to look it up.
I just think it's so empowering to see that. And that's what gives me hope, is that I mean, we're on here talking to you and, sharing our ideas. And this is so exciting. And I think a lot of people are very excited about this. And I feel like we're really getting a voice now. And it's, so I feel a shift, that is coming that's even bigger than what we've seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's so many women-led ventures, businesses, right? Not just in tech, but just across the board. And so it's more like, hey, not can we anymore. It's like, hey, we already did, right? We did this, we're done. Thanks. So just kind of going back to, how we've all seen the transformation, right? Of, the slow growth of women leaders. And, that I'm just like so excited to see how that shifts for like when my daughters are my age, right? What is that going to look like for them? Because of where, us ladies and all the others, has, started, forming and moving on, right? To build that for them as well. Whereas we were thankful to the ladies prior to us, right? So it's just really exciting to see that. And the men that help, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're a big part of that change.
And I feel like
too,
women like us
that want to
kind of leaving our mark, and our mark is inspirational. I mean, I feel like people are going to look back, like April said, in 20, 30 years and think, okay, all of these women, this shift happened and here they are. And
I've had more full body chills in this episode than ever before.
I'm just like a walking goosebump right now. So I completely agree. And I think it's so inspirational to see, and I'm very excited to see what's next. And I'm happy to be a part of it. Like, it's just mind-blowing that we're sitting here talking about this. Yeah.
Well, I'm so inspired by each of you. What really gives me hope are women like you. The ones like doing the work, making the space, asking the better questions, and refusing to shrink. And I mean, I'm just so inspired by you all.
We feel the same about you, Tonya.
Yeah, absolutely. Back at you.
Super grateful to Rawl for making the connection.
Yes, we are too. Absolutely. We love Rawl, the teddy bear.
This feels like a perfect place to pause because, and I'm saying pause on purpose because this isn't a conversation that ends. I think it's one that we really need to keep alive. And I'd love to have you back talking more in this realm, especially, and it's probably not too long from now because AI is just moving so fast. And I can't stress how important this feels right now.
We'd love to come back. And we have, I think, some other women in leadership that have a great voice that we could bring to the table too.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. This is really a conversation I've been craving, and I'm really grateful we got to have it together.
Yeah, us too. Thank you so much, Tonya.
Yeah, thank you.
So, can you share how our audience can find you outside of the marketplace? And I'll just share in our marketplace, technologymatch.com, you can connect with the incredible team at GCG or explore how they can support your tech goals by visiting their landing pages. You can look up GCG, or I believe it's cost optimization. I'll link the links in the show notes. But outside of the marketplace, how can our audience connect with you?
Yeah, we have a website, and we're all on LinkedIn, but we have a website. It's gcgcom.com. And there are places on there that you can click and reach someone. I think the easiest way to reach all three of us would be smartcell@gcgcom.com. That email goes to all three of us, and then we're all three on LinkedIn. So we'd love to connect with anyone that would like to connect with us.
Yes, and I'll share your LinkedIn in the notes as well.
Great, it's perfect.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Tonya.
Yeah, this was meaningful and
Thank
energizing
you.
and fun.
It was,
It's
amazing.
been the most fun one I've done.
Yeah.
And Leslie will be back soon for a deep dive on tech cost optimization. She's going to show you how to get a handle on out of control spend and free up budget for what actually matters. So don't miss that one. Until next time, keep leading with heart.